Okay, we're taking you now very quickly to an important story that continues if you live anywhere in the northern regions of the country. AQI continuing to plummet. Delhi woke up in a wave of smog, a thick blanket as it's often described. And Sonal is on the AQI board to tell us more about the numbers from the entire region. Let's go over to her.
If you were anywhere outdoors last evening, you could smell smoke in the air. It felt like we were in middle of a forest fire. That's how bad air quality has been in the Delhi NCR region. No wonder now the numbers have surpassed 500 in most places. This despite grapple being in place. If you look at the numbers, all have gone to very deep red and hazardous categories, some going to 999 in Ghaziabad. And this is again to remind you that's the number because the meter does not know how to calculate further. So the number could be actually much worse. Look at other places. 755 for Anand Vihar, usual suspect there. 744, this is for Wazirpur. 718 for IIT in Jahangirpuri. Most of Delhi NCR region and even the surrounding places are in deep red. That means very poor quality air. This will impact your health, and this is the time when, if you haven't already, you need to put on your N95 masks on. Ensure that your HEPA filters are up and running, and do not step out unless it's absolutely necessary, especially for kids and elderly citizens. This despite, remember, like we said, grapple being in place. It's being said there are two reasons for AQI going specifically bad the past couple of days. Number one, temperatures have been dipping. We've seen lower temperatures, 2 to 3 degrees lower in the past couple of days. And second, wind movement, which doesn't seem to be in our favor, making the smog really stick above our heads.
Okay, let's take it from there. So you're saying a grey picture, frankly, for everyone who lives in the NCR region, right, Sonal? Let's talk a little bit more about that, though, because the other thing you talked about was the fact that this entire region is waking up to plummeting temperatures this morning. And we've seen 7 degrees as the temperature at about 7 a.m. this morning. And we've been told yesterday itself, on Thursday, Shrishti joined us and she told us that it's only going to get much colder in the next month. With current AQI levels, we are not encouraging you to go out and exercise. But in Jan, typically, it does improve. So how can we get you out in this weather? It's so important for your serotonin, for your vitamin D levels. You need to keep your exercise routines ongoing.
Now, we know that in these freezing temperatures, telling you to get out and moving is not winning us any points. In fact, it's not advisable at all, so don't do it. But to tell us how to do it correctly, especially because experts say that muscles, ligament, tendons and all of that is at high risk of sprains, etc. We've seen of more and more emergency cases that crop up during this time of the year. So we have with us Dr. Aijaaz now, who's an expert in this field and has expertise in advanced physiotherapy as well. Dr. Aijaaz, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We just looked through really bad AQI levels. Toya is already sneezing. Others are coughing around us as well, right? And this is matter of no joke anymore because it's happening on a regular basis. It's impacting health. There is enough evidence for it. Now, when we ask people to stay indoors, are there ways that you can recommend to ensure that the muscle strength is not lost?
Right. Thanks for inviting me on this show. And I would love to make people aware about cold weather because I have been born and brought up in Kashmir, but settled in Mumbai. But know how the condition is in Srinagar and other places where the weather is really cold. And the worst thing what we do is in the morning when we get up, we try to stretch our body directly. Because the muscle is really stiff because of cold weather. So everyone tries to stretch their muscle where the muscle goes into severe spasm. Rather than just moving, that's why I always say there's a difference between a movement, the mobilization, and the muscle stretch. So whenever you get up in the morning, so what people need to do is to move their arms, legs a bit, walk a bit, make it slightly warmer, get more oxygen, let the muscle feel that oxygen in, and then stretch it. And not that static stretch which we do for the longer time, like in Mumbai and other places. We hold the stretch for a longer time. But in cold weather, we need to stretch the muscle dynamically, that we say, okay, fine, continuously bend and straight, bend and straight, bend and straighten it. The elasticity of the muscle fiber increases and that's how it gets warm, and maximum circulation comes to the muscle fibers. So less stiffness, less chance of strain and other issues.
I see.
Doctor, how should that vary based on the person who's doing it? So, for example, it can either be a sports person. You can even have people in older age groups. What are the variations
Right.
there?
See, sports is totally different. If you know, like, if you see all the cricket teams and football team, when they travel to different countries or different cities or different states, it's not that they go for a fun 10 days before they want to enjoy surrounding. No, it's because of the weather, the conditions there. They need to adopt the conditions there.
Acclimatize.
Yeah, that's true. So same way, whenever we see the weather changes, we need to change our warm up. We need to change our exercise. Like if it's a senior citizen, I won't tell him to run, jog, and other things. I'll tell him to walk a bit, because when they walk, the calf is the second heart of the body. It starts pumping the blood, and it helps your lower body to get warmer. And when you move the arms, upper body gets warmer as well. So for the senior citizens, we tell them walk slowly. Then if you want to make it a slight faster walk, it's fine, rather than jogging and straining your muscles. But yes, the sport person, it takes them basically to jog, run, and stretch, because they have to prepare for the sports. So never compare yourself with the other person in warm up. It's basically what suits your body, what suits the weather around you, surroundings around you, and then do these kind of warm ups.
Right. So basically know your body and, understand it, listen to it and act accordingly. But do you have some quick ways, maybe your top 5 ways to stay active without risking muscle injury in the winters? Because warm up is something a lot of people end up missing, and it takes longer in the winter to warm up as well, right?
Right. So that's why we say start with maximum warm water if you can take warm water, because people don't drink a lot of water in winters. That's must. Second thing, we tell them, okay, fine, you start with the walking, slow walking. You can go for a brisk walks later, but start with a slow walking. Walk as much as you can and start warming up your muscles. And when you start stretching, don't stretch it for a longer time. As I always say, don't static stretches in cold weather. Have dynamic stretches, quick stretches, dynamic stretches, which helps your muscle to become more flexible. The chance of micro trauma, which happens in the muscle, is lesser. And yes, I prefer when they're walking or before walking, if they can do some breathing exercises, deep breathing exercise, which helps them to oxygenate the muscles. That will help them a lot to avoid any kind of strain to the muscles.
Doctor, can we ask you, I just find this so fascinating. What is actually happening to the muscle in the winter? What's the science there? Is the muscle freezing up of sorts? What's happening?
No, first of all, the people drink very less water in winters.
Okay.
That's the first thing, because your body is made up of 76% of your body is made up of water. So if you don't nourish your muscles, it's going to get tighter and stiffer. On top of that, if you try to do any kind of exertion, which we call strain, whether it can be a housewife who's working in the kitchen, it can be a guy who's sitting on a computer continuously, it can be a person who is working outside. Because of the weather, the muscle gets tighter and stiffer. It gets shorter. So whenever you try to do any activity for a longer time, that's where the strain comes, because the fatigueness comes very quickly, because the muscle is not nourished and there's less elasticity in the muscle fiber. That's why I say when they start walking, it becomes warmer. The circulation improves because there's a less circulation, because we sit at one place, we don't move much. Try to see that the muscle stays warm, but unfortunately, when you get up and try to stretch, you get a spasm. It's a spasmodic pain. And on top of that, when you try to stretch it more, it gets worsened, because as the muscle fiber becomes tight, you try to pull it, you cause more strain to the muscle fibers. That's why we say go slow, gradually increase your warmth of the muscle, do breathing, have a lot of water, and then stretch it. It will help you a lot.
Right. Dr. Aijaaz, I have to end by asking you this. Do you know of any common mistakes that people do while exercising in the winter that you think they should absolutely avoid?
Maximum people, when they get up in the morning, they try to stretch their body as much as they want to. That's the worst thing to do in the mornings.
Oh, really?
Please don't ever stretch when you get up. Walk a bit, move your limbs a bit. Don't directly stretch, because the muscle fibers are really tight in the morning, early morning stiffness is there, and you're trying to pull them, you tear the muscle fibers. That's why when we see the people who try to stretch, they say we get a serious spasm on the upper back, and that's what happens. They try to stretch it, they try to pull the muscle fibers get strained. That's why I say it's a micro trauma of the muscle fibers, then they need to take a rest for 2 to 3 days. Or if it's really stiff, how you can decide whether it's better. You can move your arm once, twice, thrice. It gets better with that. So you understand it's a stiffness, it's not a spasm. But if it goes in a spasm, you try to move it, the pain increases. So nothing doing, just use the hot pack on that. Let the muscle relax, let the spasm go over. Handle it for 12 hours. Don't stretch it. After 12 hours, stretch it, increase the elasticity, and then do the movement. You won't feel that pain again.
But doctor, can I ask you, are you then saying, because the exercise Surya Namaskar, for example, it's done, it's created to be done, with the sun as the sun is rising. It's a stretch, right? So are you saying something like that too? One needs to wake up, walk around the house, for example, for a few minutes. What do we mean? Are we saying 10 minutes?
But in cold weather, not in Mumbai, in cold weather, you need to do that. You need to walk a bit, you need to warm up your muscles and then do Surya Namaskar. Because I've seen lots of people coming with the back strain. No exercise in this world is wrong. It's the time, the surroundings, the weather, and your body. What suits you is the best thing to do. Never compare your warm-up with someone else. That's how it helps. But the basic has to be right. Like you start walking, you have a lot of water intake, you start walking, you start jogging, and then stretch, dynamic stretches, and then static stretch. That's how you maintain your muscle fibers elasticity.
All right, then that's good to know.
Several things will change after this.
Yeah, not stretch. Like your body automatically goes into a stretch when you yawn in the morning. So remember to be careful with that. He's not saying stop doing it. He's saying be careful if your body is not allowing you to, and listen to the cues, which is important. On that note, we're going to slip into a break. Coming up on the other side, we introduce you. In fact, the world has been introduced already. Let's just get into a chat with the youngest chess champion the world has ever seen. He's D. Gukesh from India, making us all very, very proud. We'll sit down to hear his comments.